Welcome to episode 13 of Unleash Your Inner Legend. Today we get a chat with Rachel Scheer, who is a functional medicine nutritionist with her own private practice here in Dallas, Texas. Today, Rachel shares with us her journey from being bullied to almost having her large intestine removed to now being a fitness model and public speaker. Her goal is to inspire and motivate others to take control of their physical and mental health so that they can achieve the life that they desire. And she definitely does that in today's episode. This is Unleash Your Inner Legend, a podcast featuring modern-day legends sharing their life choices, habits, and routines that got them to where they are today. Get ready to be inspired and to take massive action to unleash your inner legend. What's up, everyone? Today we have a functional medicine nutritionist, public speaker, and fitness model, Rachel Scheer, with us. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm super excited to be on your podcast.
Yes, and I am super excited about today as well. I know when Satima had introduced us, I was like, okay, this girl has to be doing great things for him to take the opportunity to introduce us. So I couldn't wait to get you on, and super excited to hear about your amazing story of struggles, obstacles, and how you crushed them and overcame them.
Yeah.
So before we dive into that story and get all your lessons learned and share with everyone, can you kind of give us a brief intro about yourself and then what you're currently doing in business?
Yeah. So I'm a functional medicine nutritionist here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So oftentimes people are like, what is functional medicine nutritionist? We've heard about nutritionists, dietitians, and there's a lot of words thrown around these days like holistic and things like that. But functional basically just means root cause. So why do we have a problem in the first place? And what can we do to restore function? So as a functional medicine nutritionist, my goal is to look at the foundation and kind of get again to that root cause. So I work with people who have hormonal imbalances, who have gut issues. Maybe it's just a weight issue as well too, diabetes. And I look at the overall lifestyle because almost 90% of disease comes back to our lifestyle, our diet, lack of exercise, and sleep. So my goal is to address those issues, and looking at the whole person versus like Western medicine and kind of just putting a Band-Aid over that issue. So for example, someone comes in, let's say, who has a migraine. And typical medicine may give them, pain medication and say, here's this medicine, this is going to help with your migraines. Well, functional medicine says, okay, let's look at what's happening within the body. Let's look at your lifestyle. Maybe there's a hormonal imbalance. Maybe there's a deficiency that you have. So again, just getting back to that root cause and that foundation. So so my practice focuses on that I have here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I do various public speaking as well too, sharing my story and my philosophy and mindset. And then I've done a lot of fitness modeling as well too. So on social media, I have a large following in which I've kind of combined the fitness modeling with some of my motivational and mindset as well.
That's awesome. And it's amazing that you are, using that platform, using your platform. I mean, a lot of people can just take the easy way out and just kind of, do their own thing instead of actually turning around and helping people with that. So that's super impressive for sure. And like with functional, like you said, it helped me because I didn't know what it was either. Whenever you were talking about it, I was like, okay, what is that? I mean, going back to the root problem, because there's such an epidemic of people on pain medicine. There's such an epidemic of people they're just masking themselves. So I definitely going to hit you up after this show and kind of get into more of this just for myself. It's awesome to hear that. It's very intriguing. So I want to, let's take it back a little bit. I'd love for you to just jump right into your story and really what happened to you as a person from childhood that made you to be the awesome person that you are today. And then how did you have that mindset transformation?
Yeah, so I had a very interesting upbringing. I grew up in, I would say, a very dysfunctional home. So my dad suffers from, and still does, mental issues, schizophrenia. And my mom was very, very absent for most of my upbringing. So I was very much neglected as a kid. I have an older sister named Ashley, and I have a younger brother named Michael. So I was the middle kid in my family. But my siblings and I, we had to take care of ourselves at a very early age. And through that, we had to become independent, and we had to really um, just look out for ourselves. And a lot of that has kind of created the mindset that I have today. But there's been a lot of, I'd say, positive that's come from it, but there's been a lot of hardship as well, too, of course. Because of my childhood, I've always struggled with these feelings of not being enough, and just, being neglected as a kid, like people were going to leave me in my life. So it's been a bit of a double-edged sword, because I've felt always this something inside me to prove myself, to become something of myself. So it's kind of been the reason why I've been able to push myself and achieve a lot of the things that I have with my life too. But it's also been a lot of cause for maybe some other negative things that I'll get into throughout my life. But growing up, I was also very athletic. I was a gymnast and I was a dancer. So I was highly involved in athletics. So that kept me very disciplined as well throughout my childhood. And being involved in athletics and all of that, it prompted me to want to get more into the health side of things. My dad suffered from mental issues, as I said. So, excuse me. So I decided when I went to college that I wanted to study nutrition and dietetics. And initially, when I went in to study nutrition and dietetics, I was probably doing it more for like the aesthetic side of things. I wanted to, get the 6-pack abs, and I wanted to, do these bodybuilding competitions, and I wanted to be on more like the athletic nutrition side of things, which is great too. But it also kind of back again going into my childhood, where I kind of felt this need to prove myself, to be something, to make myself feel like I was enough. So when I graduated from college, I did various jobs. I worked for Lifetime Fitness as a nutritionist and trainer. I even worked for like a hospital as like a dietitian that way. And throughout all this process, I was competing as well too through bodybuilding competitions. So I was pushing myself to these extremes, very low body fat, and I thought it was healthy. I mean, I did. And, because I looked healthy, I looked very fit. And from the outside view, everyone would probably say like, oh my gosh, I want this girl's body. I want to look like that. But on the inside, like there was a lot of pain, there was a lot of hurt there. And I can honestly say that time of my life was probably where I was suffering the most, and I had the most anxiety, I had the most depression during my life. And during this time of my life, I also started to develop a lot of severe health issues too. So I lost my menstrual cycle. I no longer was able to, have a period each month. So a lot of hormonal imbalances. My thyroid plummeted, which is our metabolism. It controls all of that. And then I also started to develop severe gastrointestinal issues. And when I say severe, like I couldn't even get out of bed. I couldn't eat anything anymore without being in severe pain. And I was already lean and I was fit. So I ended up losing a ton of weight on top of it, became very malnourished. And I found myself just in this rock bottom place of just, I was depressed. I had anxiety. I just asked the world, like, why is this happening to me? Like, like I put such an emphasis on my health and my nutrition. I'm a nutritionist, for goodness sakes. Like, why is this happening to me? Like all these health issues. And I just kept pointing the finger, and I just was like, I don't understand, like why all this could be happening. Needless to say, I ended up going to a bunch of different doctors, gastroenterologists, endocrinologists. They did every test they could. They did endoscopy, colonoscopy, CT scan, MRI, put me on various medications, and they just slapped a label on me of IBS, or irritable bowel syndrome, and they sent me on my way. And I was like, irritable bowel syndrome. Like, I can't eat anything anymore. Like literally at the end of the day, I would look like I was 10 months pregnant. I was so distended. I was in so much pain. I wasn't absorbing any of the food that I was eating. And I'm like, I don't think that's just like an irritable bowel. I'm like, something is really going on here. I ended up finally being sent to a colorectal surgeon. And that surgeon's solution was actually to remove
Oh my.
my entire large intestine. And at that point, I remember I was sitting in that office with my boyfriend Chase at the time, and my mom, and I was like, I had given up. I was just like, all right, when can we schedule the surgery? Just take out my entire large intestine. Like, I was just so done being in pain. I just wanted to get on with my life. I just was over this whole phase. And I remember like sitting there in the office and like literally trying to schedule the appointment for the surgery. And then I just had this, something inside me just came over me and was like, I don't think this is the answer. I don't think this is gonna fix all my problems. I feel like there's something more. And I've never been someone who gives up or who takes the easy road. And I felt like that's what I was doing. And I would just like told myself like, okay, if this is the only answer, if this is the solution, okay, but I'm going to give myself like, it was, I don't know, I said like 6 months, and I'm going to do everything I can to try to get to the bottom of this, to work on, my mental health, to work on my lifestyle, to work on my diet. And I'm going to just do everything I can. So I went home and I just became like hyper focused on this. Like, that's like all I did. I spent hours per day, like researching. I learned so much about like the functional side again of nutrition. So about hormones, I learned a lot about gut health, and oh my goodness, like gut health and what all of that can do in terms of like anxiety, depression, your overall mood, of course, digestion that we think about, your immune system. So I learned as much as I could about like the gut and digestion, and I changed a whole lot in my life. So I decided I was no longer going to compete anymore. I had to remove a ton of things from my diet. I had to focus on stress reduction. And it didn't happen like overnight, of course, but as the months went by, I had fewer bad days. And then a few weeks would go by and I would be fine. And then a month or two would go by and there would be no issues. And eventually, like, my body did heal. And I decided I was not going to get the surgery. And I was able to overcome that. And I'm still not sure to this day, like, what exactly was, like, again, like, caused all of those issues. But I can say that, during that time of my life, like, I was pushing my body to the extremes, and maybe I looked healthy from the outside, but on the inside, like I said, like mental health and all of that, like that was not where it needed to be. So I think that definitely it was a big contributing factor to a lot of my health issues. Again, and probably never will know like what brought it on, but I do believe in my heart, like that was a big part of it.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
So like literally like that's a lot. And here you are like smiling today, sharing your message. I mean, like that was a lot. I want to take it now and just kind of ask some questions going through. So
yeah,
going back to your childhood, I can relate in the sense of like when I was like 13, 14, my mom had met a guy online and she went to go visit him over the weekend, and then she had stayed, she didn't come back. So a lot like you, I was, kind of forced to grow up quickly in an environment with an absent parent. And then my dad's, not in the picture as well. So I can relate to you on that sense for sure. And, when you're in that situation, you're a child, but you're having to make adult decisions without the right adult influence or a guidance. And, I had done, like anything from like the way I dressed to the choices I made in school. And those had a dramatic impact of being bullied and everything like that. So what, I would like to talk to you about that, like as a child and being in that situation. How did you overcome like the kids at school, and how did you like guide yourself through that without having the proper parental guidance?
Well, luckily I had my brother and my sister along
Yeah.
there with me too, which is a big part of, how I feel like I was able to get past that phase because we were always there to support each other. And I'm right there with you. Like I ended up being bullied in high school quite a bit as well too. But I've always just had this, I never wanted to be where my mom was at, and I looked at her and I saw like, you know, how she was acting and in her relationships, like dating all these men and bringing home all these men. And then my dad too, with his mental health, I just looked at it from like perspective as like, I'm like, I don't want that to be me.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's something much greater out there for me as well too. So it kind of created this, like, again, I don't want to be like that. And that's not what my life is meant for. So I'm going to do everything in my power to be the exact opposite. And that's kind of been my driving force throughout all of this and trying to overcome and, pushing myself and trying to make something. So again, like I said, it's been very much a double-edged sword. It's been why I've been successful in a lot of ways. But then, it's also caused a lot of negatives too. So, I definitely have to thank my brother and sister though, just having them as a support system as well too for each other.
Yeah, for sure. And I have older sisters and brother too, so I can definitely relate in the aspect of going through the trenches. It's a lot easier to go with someone than alone. But it's crazy because your mindset, like that's not like an average mindset. Like, usually people use that as a circumstance of victimhood. So like what, like, other than like literally just not wanting to be like them, like, was there a book? Was there like something you had seen, or was there a movie? Like, what was it that kind of made you think, okay, like, this is not my life. This is right now what I'm currently going through, but this is not my life. And this is not who I am as a person. Like, what kind of like made that stick in your head and kind of click as like, okay, like, I don't have to be like this when I grow up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think sports honestly played a big role for me in that. Just being involved with a team and having like this accountability, like sports was like, okay, you have to show up at this time every single day. And it like was something where you had to push yourself, you had to put yourself in uncomfortable positions. And it almost made you be confident as well too. So I think sports causes confidence. For example, like a baseball player, if they're up to a bat and if they have a bunch of self-doubt, and they're trying to hit a home run or something, they're not going to be able to do it. So along with sports, it helps you build a lot of confidence. And that's also kind of why I ended up getting more on the fitness side of things, because it did that for me. Sports, fitness, it helped me feel confident, and it helped me, push through these plateaus and, just really own in on, this mindset and the discipline on what I ultimately wanted as well too. So there really wasn't like a book or anything like that, but I would say just being involved in an atmosphere that was a very motivational atmosphere, in a very much a competitive atmosphere that helped you build confidence was a big part of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing to hear that, like that environment within the same kind of environment helped you
Yeah.
to get over that and gain that self-confidence and continue on. So like, you don't know what you don't know. So as you said before, you were going through and being like competing in fitness competitions and things like that. So you looked amazing. I see people like that. I'm like, I want that girl's body. Like I was one of those girls. I was like, okay, I want to be like her. But like on the inside, you said you felt terrible. What advice would you give on balancing mental and physical, and how important it is to have both of them stable at the same time?
Yeah, for sure. And I've seen this quote go around on the internet quite a bit. And it's like, you can take your vitamins, you can do your workouts, you can do the protein shakes, but if you don't deal with that's going on inside of your own head, you're still going to be unhealthy. And like you said, that was a big part of it for me from the outside, from like a physical standpoint. I may have been, healthy, I may have been fit, I may have had a body that everyone, aspired to have. But on the inside, there was a lot of things that weren't healthy, again, with the mental health. And honestly, you do have to have a balance between the two, and they help out with each other quite a bit. So I think mental health is honestly the foundation. And not a lot of people talk about that. I think we're beginning to talk about it more and more. We're always talking about like physical health and, weight loss, weight gain. That's always going around the internet, but not very many people are talking about, the mental health of it as well too, and the mindset behind it. And that really needs to be the foundation as well too. I mean, even kind of going back to the physical health, like stress, all of that, and that does also affect your physical health. Like I can even say so with myself. So for example, when your body is in a very stressed state, we get a hormone called cortisol that rises. And cortisol is our body's stress hormone, and it's a very catabolic hormone, meaning it breaks things down. So it breaks down muscle tissue. It can break down the gut lining, which kind of going back to kind of what I went through. It causes a lot of mental issues such as anxiety and things like that, because our body's just in a stressed, fight or flight state. So the mental leads very much into the physical. So it really does need to be the foundation. We need to have, the good mental health and of course the physical health too. And it's just all finding balance between those.
Like, you went through all these struggles, you learned and then you learned it. And then now obviously you're doing it and you're teaching it and everything like that. So as far as like functional goes, let's talk about like a diet. Cause it's a crazy world we live in. Like everyone's on Adderall, like, so that they focus, but then they're drinking like Cokes and Dr. Peppers and to keep their mind race. So it's almost like, like not being aware of the things that they put in their body. And then instead of saying, okay, let's get to the root causes to like, what is causing me to not be focused, or what's causing me to be tired, or what's causing me to do this. And you throw in Adderall just because it's a hot topic. I'm not saying anything against it, but it's just a lot of people, they, instead of taking away the stimulants or taking away the distractions, they add more mixture to the chaos. What advice would you give to someone who is looking to add a medication to mask a problem that they're doing?
Yeah, so always, get as much information as you can for your doctor, but do know that like the medical industry, it's also a business, and, doctors, they've been taught to hand out, medications for these things, and it's not their fault. It's just the way Western medicine has become. So like if you go to a doctor and they're saying, we want to put you on Adderall, we want to put you on like an antidepressant maybe, or something along those lines, I would encourage you to, hold on to that, like wait a bit though, like don't jump into it immediately, and kind of look at, again, more on the functional side of things, like your diet. We all know, like we know the effect of like medications and supplements have on our body, and like those can help us in many different ways. But it's interesting, like why don't we think about food in that same way? Like we're eating all throughout the day, at least breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks for most people. And that's something we're putting into our body on a daily basis. Medications, supplements, that's things we're also putting into our body. But yet we kind of separate the two. We say, okay, this medication is going to fix my problem, but the food has no effect at all, and all of that too. So it's interesting. So I actually went to a seminar this weekend, and we talked quite a bit about nutrition and, foods to have and avoid in regards to anxiety, in regards to depression, in regards to even brain fog as well too. So nutrition, it really is medicine. I mean, it can cause disease, it can do the exact opposite, or it can create health. It can lead to abundance. So the whole saying, like food is medicine, I definitely stand by that.
Absolutely. I mean, especially, we always think of like, oh, well, I'm not, being an athlete or I'm not training for something, but really
Mhm.
you're training to be the best person you can today. You're training to be the best entrepreneur. You're training to be the best boss, the best CEO, the best,
Mhm.
employee, whatever it is that your title is. But it's like, what are you fueling your body with to perform your best? So
Mhm.
that's super helpful. Well, how can, let's talk about like your next venture. Like what are you currently doing right now that people can take advice or, and use your services on? How can we do that?
Yeah, so I have my nutrition practice here in the Dallas area, where I do one-on-one counseling. And then for people who aren't local, I do online coaching or telemedicine as well too. So I do that, and I help a lot of people that ways. But I'm actually here in the process of opening what is called a concierge practice. So if you aren't familiar what a concierge practice is, it's kind of like a membership, but it's going to be also like a one-stop shop for all of your medical needs. So, for example, you may go to a doctor, and oftentimes they'll refer you to someone else for your hormones. You may go to someone separate for, diet, for nutrition, and go to a trainer for somewhere else. And then even maybe go to like, an aesthetic place for like facials and all of that. So, what we're trying to create is like a one-stop shop. So, essentially for all of your medical care, vaccines, just functional wellness, and then hormones. We're going to have the nutrition department to focus on that. And then we're going to have a fitness department to help doing customized fitness programs, and then aesthetics. So we're going to be a one-stop shop for all of your health and wellness needs. And how cool would that be to have like a nutritionist who's in coordination with your doctor, who's in coordination with like your trainer, who's, and we're all on the same page, and we're working as an interdisciplinary team. So that is something that I'm working on. We're trying to open here at the end of October here in Dallas, Highland Park area. But currently I do, again, just the nutrition side of things, functional medicine, and then some online coaching too.
That's amazing. And yeah, sign me up for that because that sounds like an amazing opportunity for someone to really
Yeah.
get a better understanding of the body, complete. And it's crazy because like you never really think about it. And of course, you just say, oh, I'm going to write my doctor's name on this form for my other doctor. But how much do they really communicate on the workings of your body and the current side effects that you're feeling, and then identifying the root of the cause versus giving you a prescription so that you can come back and see them next month whenever you need a refill. So, wow, that's amazing to see that you're doing all that and everything. How can people connect with you if they're interested in just following your journey or coaching with you or taking opportunity in October and becoming a patient? How can they connect with you? What's the best way?
Yeah, so they're always welcome to check out my website, which is pretty simple. It's just my first and last name.com. So Rachel, Rachel, and then Scheer, Scheer.com. And I have information for both local consults as well as some lab testing that I do. And then I have information on my online coaching there. And if they want to connect with me, my biggest platform would be Instagram, in which they can follow me. I post a lot of motivational content in terms of mindset, some various nutrition, supplement, and fitness tips as well too. And that page would be, again, just my first and last name. So at Rachel Scheer on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure to connect and hyperlink those within the show notes so that you guys listening can take advantage of just clicking on it, getting directed, and then start subscribing, start listening to what Rachel has, because in this 20 minutes, 30 minutes we've just had, you've dumped so much value. I can only imagine on a day-to-day basis how much content you put out. So I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us, and thank you so much for sharing your journey and then just being open and real.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm really glad that we got to connect.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Unleash Your Inner Legend. For more inspiration, make sure to subscribe by going to unleashyourinnerlegend.com. We'll see you guys next week.